Welcome to the show, everybody. It's the Crypto Lark coming at you from Hong Kong at Token 2049. I have with me Dustin today from Wanchain. Dustin, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, let's start off with the elevator pitch. What is Wanchain for anybody who's been living in a cave for the past 6 months and doesn't know yet?
Well, if you're familiar with the problems around interoperability, effectively what the industry is right now is a collection of intranets. All of these blockchains are siloed, they don't speak to one another. So the Wanchain solves this problem by effectively we've created our own blockchain, which is a fork of Ethereum. Sorry, a little bright here, but beautiful nonetheless, willing to brave the sun for the interview. So
working on our tans.
Yeah, so Wanchain is a fork of Ethereum, its own blockchain, and to solve this interoperability problem, imagine we have this one really powerful Turing complete blockchain that also has ring signatures implemented into it, and then we build these bridges to other blockchains. And digital assets can flow over those bridges. And so what we end up with is something that looks like Ethereum with privacy protection and all the protocol tokens. And so then you can start doing the infrastructure is really elegant, the architecture is really elegant, and you can start building like really powerful applications with this and solving other systemic issues. And we can talk about some of those use cases and applications later on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, this idea. The blockchain as an island. And I think that's interesting because most people don't realize that they're totally not connected at all. Ethereum and Bitcoin don't speak to each other. Yeah. And that's where you guys come in, is actually looking how can we make the blockchains speak to one another,
right? Which
I think is so powerful moving forward. Now I want to talk about privacy. Why did you choose ring signatures over like ZK Snarks or the Zero Coin protocol?
So we looked at a lot of different privacy protocols, and ZK Snarks, we spent a bunch of time researching that. A couple of problems with ZK Snarks. One, you have the trusted setup problem, and so you never know if anybody's colluded and can like print money endlessly. It is extremely private, and that makes it very powerful, but it's so private that it's actually not auditable, and so that makes it very challenging to trust. And we think that blockchains, one of the big things about blockchains and digital assets is trust. You're actually moving a lot of trust from like old institutions into these networks, and so you need audit trails to be able to do that. And then the other issue is that it's not a very great fit for Turing complete, because you have to go through this trusted setup process every time you want to use effectively like a new function. So imagine that you have like a smart contract that does multiplication. You would go through this trusted setup process, which is like very laborious, and then you want to do like division or multiplication or addition or something. You'd have to go through the trusted setup process again, and so that's a little challenging with Turing complete blockchains like ours. And then the third part is this like very computationally expensive. So the overhead of running ZK Snark proofs and things like that is pretty high. And so ring signatures like have a lot of benefits, don't have some of these negative traits, and so that's why we chose them.
Yeah, great. It's definitely ring signatures is a well-proven method without a doubt too. So you have that history to look back on as well and say, well, this has worked well, so let's keep using it moving forward. Now, what about blockchain operability? I mean, I know we mentioned the idea that blockchains are islands and all these things, but you guys have actually nailed some really awesome partnerships working on how to bring this together. So what are the big challenges? Why isn't this just easy? Why can't Bitcoin and Ethereum and Wanchain, why can't they just talk to each other? What's the problem stopping this from happening?
It's because so Bitcoin only knows Bitcoins, Ethereum only knows Ethereum, they Ether. So they actually don't recognize these other assets. And so you have to so one approach is to create bridges between all of the different assets. And one of the problems with that approach is that you get this sort of n squared problem where, so say you have 1,000 blockchains, and then you add one more, you have to build 1,000 bridges now. And so then it doesn't scale very well to just try to build bridges between all of these things. And one really big advantage of our approach is that it's extremely scalable. And so the secure multi-party compute, we effectively can anchor to any blockchain and don't need their permission, and we don't require them to any kind of soft or hard fork, which often you need for things like atomic swaps. And it also works with VMs and scripting languages alike. And so it's extremely scalable. It's not necessarily easy. It's a very challenging problem. We're very confident in our ability to solve it, and are marching towards solutions and getting. And we'll have rolling out those solutions. The first 2.0 this summer. We're anchoring with Ethereum.
Awesome. I want to take the conversation a bit wider. We're here in Hong Kong. What are you guys doing here? Why have you come here? Why do you see Asia as an important market, I suppose, overall? And what are perhaps some of the countries in specific that you're targeting?
Well, our roots are in Beijing and China. Jack Liu, the technical co-founder of Factum, founder and CEO of Wanchain, is from Beijing. We see, China and much of Southeast Asia have like really big trust problems, and so blockchains are really like, I kind of think of them as like a trust as a service, and so whenever we see like large groups of people that effectively like don't trust each other, we say, hey, these are good markets for blockchains, and you really have some pretty systematic trust problems in China in particular, and also lots of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in Western countries where we don't have so many of these trust problems kind of look at cryptocurrency and blockchain sometimes, think, well, do we really need that? But then they don't realize the potential, like, yeah, actually you do. But apply this to the world and you will see that the systems that are operating now are so different from one another.
Oh yeah. Which
of course is really interesting. What do you think perhaps is some of the most underhyped but important trends going on right now in cryptocurrency?
Ooh, good question. Underhyped. There's so much hype.
I know there's so much hype going on, but there's all these important things going on too.
I think I really like index tokens. That's something I'm thinking a lot about. The thing that I think that the best bet in the space is probably a bet on the market cap, or like a specific niche of that market cap. I've a lot of confidence in the long-term trend of the digital economy expanding. I think there's like relatively low risk, high upside. You get lots of diversification. Any one of these assets, Bitcoin in particular, you get like lots of systemic risk with any single, or idiosyncratic risk with any specific project. So if you can spread your bets very easily across a wide range of projects and currencies, I think that's a really good bet. And so we're working on some of those things actually with Wanchain.
Nice. And so I guess taking it back to blockchain a little bit more too, is how do you see blockchain really coming into people's lives? I guess for the regular person, they look at blockchain and think, well, that's kind of cool, but like, how is Wanchain gonna make my life better?
Well, really the whole stack is gonna get like, blockchainified. Like all of the blockchains are just really good databases. And so we have like kind of systemic database problems. Our databases just suck effectively. They don't really talk to each other. They're like easy to hack.
They get hacked all the time. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so we just need it like, and everywhere the world's like run on databases. And so like basically all these databases, or many of them, are gonna get swapped out for these like blockchain databases. And you'll just interact with them just like you interact with your web browser. You have like Web3 clients, like MetaMask and things like that, where you'll be able to just like have a browser and you'll be like moving around the internet, but the abstraction underneath will just be like, everything will be a blockchain. A lot of things you interact with, I think, will be, the database will be powered by blockchains, but you won't necessarily know it.
Yeah, it's just like so many people today, they use all kinds of services on the internet and have no idea how any of it works, but they know that it works.
Right.
However, the drawback to that right now is that we have all these trusted third parties where, well, I trust someone to have my data, for example, and of course we see how that works. There's constant data hacks, constant data leaks, and so that's a real problem, of course. So,
huge problem.
Very interesting. Now, what about, for example, where do you see the space moving in, say, 5 years? Where do you think we're going to be at with blockchain adoption? What do you think is needed actually to make more people pay attention to the space?
I think what we'll probably see is people that have like real, in the next 5 years, like the first really big adopters will probably actually be people in third world countries that have like specific problems around money and stable money. I think that a lot of these like countries will just like swap out. Like the local governments will just basically not be able to, people won't trust them to issue money anymore. And so you'll see like masses of adoption of like stable coins. in these like third world countries. And so I think that'll be like a huge boon to the world, is to be able to give these people stable money. You don't realize how big of a problem that is. And like not having sound money like totally messes up these economies. People, like, you can't do cross-border trades because no one trusts each other. People don't save because what's the incentive to save when their money's like being completely debased and like hyperinflated?
That's it.
And so I think you know, you have this, like, we as end users will, like, you know, we'll be surfing around the internet on the blockchain enabled, and I think you'll have some some serious improvements there. But like the people, when you give them sound money, I think they like massive changes in their lives, and then they'll be, you know, in part of this, like the financial inclusion is like the first step to financial inclusion is giving them sound money, and then they can start trading with the rest of the world, and that'll benefit all of us too, be the people that already have the access to financial institutions, because now we can access them, so it'll be good for everybody.
That's really cool. I think, again, you've hit on a thing that most people in first world countries just don't think about, is that, you know, people don't have bank accounts. They don't have ways to easily send money. And if they do, they use something like Western Union, which takes a giant fee. And, you know, when you see a few dollars for a Bitcoin transaction, you think, that's too much. I'm not going to buy my coffee with that. Yeah, but the guy in Africa is going, I'm going to send money to my cousin in Ghana because that's way cheaper than anything that exists right now.
Totally.
Now, as far as Wanchain's concerned, how do you guys fit in with finance? So what is your financial focus, I suppose?
So the basic idea that we have is, so we think that our vision for the future is that the future is going to be, the financial future is going to be one that's based upon digital assets. So this will be kind of like the atomic unit in the financial stack. And so instead of we say rebuilding finance as opposed to repairing finance, because we're starting with this new atomic unit and then building all these financial tools on top of it, like the exchanges. In Dubai conference in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking about like a lending platform that we're building, smart bonds, and you know, these index tokens, stable coins. These are like the early like seeds of this network, and so there'll be more and more, and all these projects will sort of like interact with each other. Asset management tools is something that we're working on as well. So these are sort of like different pillars within the financial services space that we're just sort of like, okay, these are all these things that exist over there, let's build them up, but have this new atomic unit at their foundation.
That's awesome. And all these tools are really going to come together to provide just an easy to use financial space. And I think that's just so important, because right now for the average user, even buying Bitcoin's hard. When you get it, there's all these unfamiliar things. You have all these learning curves. When you have stable coins and really easy to invest in index coins, for example, people are going to be onto that. People see the potential, they want to get involved, but it's hard to know how to get involved.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dustin, I think it has become time where we have to answer the main question that everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
When are we going to see it on exchanges? Okay, well, you know, the standard party answer. You know, we know that the exchanges are like pinging our APIs. It's all like the usual players you'd expect. It's like it's not our engineers that are working on this problem. I think some people are kind of saying, oh, they're losing faith in our development team for some reason, when our development team has nothing to do with this. You know, we're trying to, again, you know, just kind of take the long-term view, and there's also the issue that protocol tokens take longer to integrate than application tokens. We know the work is underway. It takes some time. Appreciate everyone's patience or lack thereof, but you know, it's happening. And so yeah, well, I know there's a lot of interest in price discovery and things like that, and I get it. The market's, you know, the market is doing what it's doing. You know, the cool thing about these blockchains, these networks, is they're like ephemeral. They don't die. They don't go away once they exist. So we take a very extreme long-term view on stuff, and so we have been, you know, judicious and careful with like some of the regulatory stuff around the exchange listing, but that's all just kind of taking the long-term perspective. That's it. It's important, guys. Good tech takes time. Be patient. You know, this is the thing. You've got to take the long-term view. If you watch the day-to-day, you got to get wrecked, guys. Dustin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.